Hey there, welcome back to Defending Your Faith. My name is Darrell Stetler. I'm your instructor today. Glad to be here with you and have you here to examine the evidence for Christianity. Today, I encourage you to grab your workbook. If you don't have one, you can get one. And if you would like to download the Shepherd's Global Classroom app and get a ton more teaching for developing Christian leaders across and around the world, I would encourage you to do that at shepherdsglobal.org. Today, I want to remind you of where we are. Today we're going to be talking about Jesus' claim to be God. This is the general argument for Christianity that builds upon itself. We say that if the New Testament is historically reliable, and it is, we talked about that, then we have enough evidence to believe that Jesus fulfilled prophecies that he was the Jewish Messiah and that he rose again from the dead. And so we argue that those two things are true, and if that is true, we conclude that Jesus was who he claimed to be, God come in the flesh. Today, we're going to stop here, and we're going to flesh out and develop this idea that Jesus is God come in the flesh. All right? So let's begin today with that idea with a quote from Kenneth Copeland. Kenneth Copeland is a faith teacher who claims to be Christian and yet has taught many things. He's been very popular around the world and in American television, Christian television. And so he has some things that he's taught that have been very sketchy or even downright heretical. And this is something that he said, quoted by Hank Hanegraaff, "Don't be disturbed when people put you down and speak harshly of you. They spoke that way of me." He's saying, as of Jesus, he's saying as if Jesus was saying this. "Should they not speak that way of you? The more you get to be like me, the more they're going to think that way of you. They crucified me for claiming that I was God. I didn't claim I was God. I just claimed I walked with him, and he was in me." Now, is that true that Jesus never claimed to be God? Well, let's examine it, okay? Let's take a look at that. Here, there are people out there who would claim that Jesus never said that he was God, that he was just a good moral teacher, if you're taking notes in your handout. He was just a good moral teacher, and that he never intended to claim to be God, but that interpretation of his words came later. Some people have even said that Augustine, for political reasons, Augustine invented Christ's claim to be God. That they say that, that was just something that the Council of Nicaea created 300 years after Christ. Now, we're going to argue today that that's absolutely not the case, that Jesus absolutely did claim to be God. All right, number one, here's the reasons, the claims of Jesus during his ministry. Number one, Jesus claimed to be the I am of the Old Testament. He claimed to be the I am of the Old Testament. In John chapter 8, verse 58, Jesus said, "Very truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "before Abraham was born, I am." And he uses a very specific set of Greek words, ego eimi in Greek, which is the exact same translation in Exodus 3:14 when God said to Moses, "I am who I am." That's ego eimi. And so Jesus picks up on that in the Greek language, and he says, "Before Abraham was, ego eimi." And he picks up the same words God uses to describe himself in Exodus 3:14. Now that's very significant. That's Jesus who knew the Old Testament very well, and so did the Jews. So immediately after Jesus said that, the Jews there picked up stones to stone him. Look at what it says. "Then they took up stones to throw at him." That's John 8:59, the next verse. And Jesus left. The argument was over. Like, he knew what he was claiming, and the Jews knew what he was claiming too. He was explicitly identifying himself as the I am of the Old Testament, as God. So, very clearly claiming to be God. Number two, Jesus claimed to be one with God the Father. He claimed to be one with God the Father. Look at John 10:30. "I and my Father are one," he said. And then the Jews took up stones again to stone him. And Jesus answered them, "Many good works have I shown you from my Father. For which of these works do you stone me?" And the Jews answered him, saying, "For a good work we are not stoning you, we do not stone you, but for blasphemy, because you, being a man, make yourself God." The Jews, again, they knew exactly what he was claiming. We can very clearly see what they thought and what Jesus knew he was claiming to be when he claimed to be one with God the Father. He's not just saying that he was one with God the Father in the same way that we are one with one another or that we are one with him. They knew that he was claiming to be God. Number 3, Jesus claimed to possess divine attributes. He claimed to possess divine attributes. Read these scriptures and then write in what you think Jesus was claiming. What attribute was Jesus claiming? Matthew 18:20, he says, "For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them." Wow. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I'm there. What's he claiming? Well, he's claiming omnipresence, right? He's claiming infinite presence, that he is everywhere present, because people could be gathering over there and over there and over there and over there at the same time, and he says, I'm there. So, very interesting that Christ claims to be everywhere present. Are you everywhere present? No. Is any human everywhere present? No. Is God everywhere present? Yes. Jesus claimed to have divine attributes. The next one, John 17:5, and he says, "And now, O Father, glorify me together with yourself, with the glory which I had with you before the world was." He claims, what is that? What is he claiming? What divine attribute? Well, it's eternality, right? He's claiming to be eternal. He's claiming to be before the world. So he is the one who was before the world was. Before God created the world and created time, Jesus was with the Father. I would also point out that he's also claiming a common glory, a common honor with God there. He's saying, the glory I had with you. So he had the glory and the Father had the glory. They are the same. Or the glory of the Son is the glory of the Father. They had it together with each other. And so that's notable because he's identifying himself with God. Number 4, Jesus claimed to have power to perform divine acts. He had the power to perform divine acts. Let me give you a couple of examples of that. Jesus claimed power to forgive sins. He claimed the power to forgive sins. In Mark chapter 2, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven you." Now, very interesting, because some of the scribes sitting there, they thought immediately, that's blasphemy. Only God can forgive sins. And some people might say, well, Jesus argued, is it only God that can forgive sins? And then he heals the man. Well, I would argue that Jesus is demonstrating, look at this, verse 10, he says, in verse 9, he says, which one of these is easier, to say, your sins are forgiven, or say, take up your bed and walk? And what he's inferring from that is, which one of these are you able to do? And the answer is, you can't do either one. I can do both, Jesus is saying. I can heal and demonstrate that I can heal, and I can also forgive sins. I have the right to do that. Isn't that amazing? He's claiming to be God, and he's demonstrating that he can do this one by showing he can do this one also, which they can do neither one. So he claims to do that, and then he raises the man up and tells him, your sins are forgiven. He also says, take up your bed and walk. The next one is that Jesus claimed power to resurrect himself from the dead. He claimed power to raise himself from the dead. In John 2:19, Jesus said to his critics, to the Jews, he said, destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days. Now, he wasn't speaking about the temple that was standing there beside them. He was speaking of the temple of his body. So he claimed that he can raise again his own self. This temple, he can raise it again in 3 days if they destroy it. And they did destroy it. And he did raise himself from the dead, right? He did do that. And so Jesus claimed power to perform divine acts. Now, there are claims that Jesus made during his ministry. He also claimed, during his trial. That's what I intended to say. Jesus claimed during his trial a couple of things that are significant. First of all, he claimed to be the Jewish Messiah. In Mark chapter 16, he kept silent and answered nothing. And again the high priest asked him, saying to him, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? So he's asking, are you the Christ, that's the anointed one, the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed, the one who is the Son of God? And Jesus replied, I am. He's answering, I am, to both of those. So there's three parts to Christ's claim, to Jesus' claim here. And it's very significant that he's clearly claiming to be the I am, the Christ. He says, I am. Are you the Son of the Blessed? I am. And then he says, and you will see the Son of Man. You will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven. That's a quote from the book of Daniel, the prophet Daniel. And he's pointing back and identifying himself as the one who is the Son of Man, who will come again and has the right hand, and sits at the right hand of God the Father. And at that point, again, it's important to note what the Jews do. The high priest tears his clothes and says, he's worthy of death. What do you think? And they all condemn him. They all know what he's claiming right here. He's claiming to be the Jewish Messiah. And I would point out to you that the Jewish Messiah was clearly prophesied to be the Son of God. Jeremiah 23, verse 6, and Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. You can look those up on your own. He's clearly prophesied to be the Son of God. So the decision that we have to make, is this. Is Jesus God? Does he claim to be God, and is he God? Does he line up with the claims he claimed about himself? Now, there are 5 possible options that we could consider here, all right? So I'm going to work through these together with you. First of all, it's possible maybe Jesus was just a legend. That's the first possibility. Was he just a legend? And the answer is no. We've already covered that, right? We have enough evidence to know that the New Testament is historically reliable and it's reflective of actual events that happened. The New Testament does give an accurate picture of what Jesus said and who he was, what he did. So it's not possible that Jesus was just a legend. The second possibility we should consider is maybe he was just a guru. Maybe he was kind of a New Age sort of guy that taught that God is in everyone, and God is, you just need to connect with the inner light, and you need to understand that God is in all of us. Kind of this New Agey sort of idea, a New Age sort of guru that tries to connect you with the God within yourself and the God in everything. No, it's really not possible. It's not just an Eastern mystic. Jesus was not that kind of person. He wasn't somebody who taught that he taught that we're all God. He's just pointing us toward enlightenment. No, not possible. Jesus was a Jew. He was raised in a strictly monotheistic culture, and every Jewish child memorized and recited literally thousands of times. They would recite the Shema in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, with all your might. And so, with all of these things, with all your mind and with all your strength, I started to say. With all of these things, it's important to understand Jesus was raised in that context and in that culture. And he never claimed to be something vastly different from the Jewish flow of thought. He claimed to be the fulfillment of it. He was not a guru who taught something fundamentally different. He was someone who claimed to be the culmination of everything that the Jewish religion taught. So Jesus was not just a guru. It is not consistent with what he taught. It's not consistent with his theological or cultural background at all. Number 3, third possibility, was Jesus just a liar? Was he a liar? Maybe he knew he wasn't God, but he wanted, people to like him. He wanted credibility with the masses. He wanted people to adore him and think well of him. So he just lied and said, I'm God. Well, I would argue that nothing about Jesus' character that we can see in the Gospels, none of these stories, fit the psychological profile of, an egomaniacal, selfish, lying cult leader. There's nothing about his character that we read here that fits that psychological profile. He lived unselfishly. He stood up for others. He helped the poor and the oppressed. He always spoke the truth. even when it was unpopular, right? So there's times where exactly what he said was not what people wanted to hear. He's a million miles from the guy who's just saying things to get the crowd behind him. He's a million miles from that. Sometimes he literally takes a huge crowd and preaches until most of them leave and don't agree with him anymore, right? Until there's just a few people left. And he asks them, you guys going to leave too? Right? That's what happens right after the John 6 passage, right after Jesus feeds the 5,000. Now, I think it's important for us to realize then, he doesn't fit the pattern. Peter Kreeft, a Christian apologist and author, said this. I'm going to read the quote to you. Liars lie for selfish reasons, like money, fame, pleasure, or power. Right? That's the reasons why liars lie. Jesus gave up all worldly goods. He even gave up life itself. This claim, his claim to be God, brought him hatred, rejection, misunderstanding, persecution, torture, and death, including from some of the closest friends and people that he had, people that he would have loved deeply. It's not possible that Jesus was just a liar, that he knew he wasn't God, but he claimed to be. Not possible. The next possibility that we need to examine, number 4, is was Jesus just a lunatic, or was he just a good moral teacher? Okay, so there's really 2 here in number 4. Was Jesus a lunatic? Was he crazy? Or was he just a good moral teacher? Maybe he was just a guy who wanted us all to love each other and be nice. This is a really common thing in the United States right now and in other European or Western civilizations, is to view Christ as just kind of a good moral teacher who wanted everybody to love each other and be good people, help the downtrodden and oppressed. But was that all that Christ was? Just a good moral teacher? Or maybe he said he was God and it wasn't true, but he didn't realize it. That would mean he was nuts, right? He was a lunatic. Well, I want to bring to you a quote from C.S. Lewis. This is a powerful quote from his book, Mere Christianity. And I want to bring it to you because I think it is a really important quote. It's a very valid point and tightly argued, so I'm going to read it to you. Here's what Lewis said. I am trying to prevent here anyone from saying the really foolish thing that people often say. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the things that Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic or the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman, or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that option open to us. He did not intend to. That's a powerful, powerful quote. Here's what he's saying. He's saying that if you claim to be God and you are not, either you are evil, deceiver, or you're just crazy. But there's no way that we can say Jesus just was a good moral teacher. We can't say it. Because someone said a good measure of your sanity is the gap between what you are and what you think you are. Right? So if I say, I think I'm the best teacher in the world, well, I'm an egomaniac. I'm very proud and arrogant if I say that. But I'm not nuts, right? I'm not crazy. I'm not insane. But if I say I'm a butterfly, if I say that I think I'm a butterfly, I'm probably over the edge, right? Because the gap between me and the best teacher in the world is a good-sized gap, but it's not anything close to the gap between me and a butterfly, right? The further I get, my self-conception, the further away it gets from what I really am, the more likely it is that I'm crazy. And so, what's the gap between me and the best teacher in the world? I don't know. but it's not as big as the gap between me and a butterfly. But what if I claimed to be God? You see the difference? The gap between a human who's just a human and God, the infinitely wise, infinitely knowledgeable, infinitely powerful creator of the universe, that's a huge gap. So it's not okay for us to say that Jesus was just a good moral teacher. Can't be true. He can't also, he doesn't fit the profile of a person who is crazy either. He doesn't. He was in many ways predictable and consistent. He was in many ways unselfish and serving. He was faithful to love little children and to be with them and to bless them. He was in so many ways a person who did not reflect any of the psychosis that would be associated with a person being crazy. So here's the thing. We've come down to a place where we have to consider one final possibility. And that is Jesus God? And the answer is, yes, He was. It's the most logical. It's the most consistent and coherent answer that we can give. He can't be just a legend. He can't be just a guru. He can't be just a liar. He can't be a lunatic. He's got to be the Lord. If he's not a liar and he's not a lunatic and he's not a legend, He must be a Lord of all things. He must be the one who deserves all of our worship and praise. So going back to the general argument, we've argued that the New Testament is historically reliable. Based on the historical reliable documents and stories we find there, we have enough evidence to conclude that Jesus fulfilled prophecies and He rose from the dead. If He did those things, He can't be just a good moral teacher. No, that's not possible. He is something far, far more than that. He's God. He must be God. Do you see how it flows and logically builds? Now, my challenge to you would be to love and worship and be with Jesus enough to soak up the joy of knowing that He is God and that He is all of the things that He claimed to be. And then go into your presentation of the apologetics with whomever you might debate with, whomever you might discuss with. That you go into it with a mind and a heart to produce joy like that in them. That you go into it not as I'm going to win this argument, or I'm going to demonstrate that I'm more trustworthy, or I'm going to demonstrate that I'm more knowledgeable. Oh, no, my friends. We are here to demonstrate that Jesus deserves all glory. That's what we're doing. We're not trying to win an argument. We're trying to create worshipers. We're trying to create lovers and rejoicers in Jesus. And this moves my heart because I think it's so important to understanding the attitude with which we come to the task of apologetics. We come to the task of apologetics not as purveyors of information, not as arguers who must be right, but as worshipers who wish to share joy. And if you come to it with that, you will have such a different footing, such a different beginning place. I want to help you understand that because when you argue with someone, I have seen so many Christians get all almost angry and harsh and hard-nosed and stubborn and that sort of thing. No, friends. We are here to create joy in Christ. We're here not to win an argument, but to create worshipers, to create people who enjoy the God for whom they were made. It's so important that you understand. So this is why, then, remember back at the very beginning, we talked about 1 Peter 3:15 and how we are doing this with gentleness and respect. The reason we can do it with gentleness and respect is because it isn't about us. It never was. It isn't about our rightness. It never was. It's about the glory of Christ and His desire to be seen as glorious and worthy of worship. And so if you'll do that, you can be gentle and you can be respectful and you can be a happy warrior in all of your work in convincing people and trying to lay out the evidence for Christianity. May God bless you, and we'll see you next time for